Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Healing with Kamee podcast. This is episode 3. I am a girl, Kamee. For those who do not know me, I am an oracle and intuitive reader. I am a Reiki practitioner. I am all things healing. Okay, but above all of that, and more importantly, I am a mother and I am someone who is very, very intentional when it comes to doing the inner healing and inner work. And I encourage all those around me in my community to do the same, right? I am very big on breaking the generational cycles. Some refer to them as generational curses. Some refer to them as generational cycles. Cycles in general. We're going to get to it, right? It's been a minute, but we are here. That's all that matters. Thank you for sharing space with me. Thank you for allowing for me to be in your space and in your energy. And just thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being present. Thank you for continuing to choose to do the work every day, no matter how hard it is, right? Thank you for showing up for yourself, right? If you haven't already done so, please feel free to check out the first 2 episodes. Okay, they're a little lengthy, but nevertheless, there are definitely some jewels and gems that are in there that I really do feel can help you in some way. If you are here, I feel like it can help you in some way, right? I set the intention that this episode reaches who it needs to reach, and it helps at least one person. That's all I'm worried about, right? Um, as I'm always saying, I try to be transparent, and when I do these episodes, and when I'm talking to you, right? Ultimately, I'm talking to myself. Ultimately, these are things that I'm working on within myself. Still, these are still wounds that I am still nurturing and caring for and addressing and cleaning, you know, and trying to bring forth the healing within my own life. And I just set the intention that it helps and encourages someone else because healing is difficult and it can feel so damn lonely, right? So, with that being said, today's episode, I want to talk about abandonment wounds. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Abandonment wounds, as well as codependency wounds, because I feel like they go hand in hand. I want to talk about abandonment wounds because a lot of the times abandonment wounds can show up in ways in which we don't even recognize or think would be an abandonment wound, right? And the first step to breaking a cycle, right, or healing from a cycle, healing the wound, is acknowledging that you even have the wound, acknowledging that and recognizing that you are even in a cycle, right? That is one of the hardest things to do when it comes to trying to change and do the work and healing and breaking a cycle. You have to recognize and acknowledge that you are even in the cycle, period, right? And a lot of the times we don't realize that we are in a cycle. But once we are in a cycle, how do we come out of that? How do we move forward? How do we change things? Sometimes it's not as an easy thing as far as breaking a cycle, but just to be able to make a change or a shift, right? Just enough to kind of deter the cycle or pause the cycle or whatever, detour, cause a detour, right? All of those little things make the difference. It's not going to be a quick fix. It's not going to be a boom, cycle broken. No, it will damn near always be a struggle. It could be a beautiful struggle, though, right? Like a butterfly. They damn near lose their life and they're reborn, but it's a struggle through that whole process of becoming a butterfly. But it's worth it, right? I would hope so. I would feel like, or I feel like, if you didn't feel like it was worth it, you wouldn't be intentional about recognizing and putting in the work. But nonetheless, how does abandonment wounds show up? A lot of the times people think abandonment wounds are created simply because somebody left you behind. No, that's not necessarily always the case. A lot of the times it can be, example, you can have both parents or one parent, you can have a family, right, growing up, um, but mommy wasn't always there because mommy had to work. So mommy couldn't pour into you the things that you needed to be poured into you. You get what I mean? So it creates a feeling of lack. It creates a feeling of not being seen, not being heard, and ultimately being abandoned. And it's not intentional because mommy is just doing what mommy has to do to provide for you, right? Um, it can show up as just that, somebody not being there at all. And as much as we try to understand um, why is it that way, we often blame ourselves. We try to make sense of how can someone just not want to be there for me? Like, what did I do that was so bad that they didn't want to be with me? They didn't want to be around me. They left me. They didn't want to be in my life. They didn't want me to be in their life. And it creates a lot of self-resentment, right? It creates a lot of questioning. Um, you wonder, you tie your self-worth to the fact that people are not there for you, especially when you know that you would show up for them differently. You get what I mean? Um, how does an abandonment wound affect us in our everyday life, right? When it comes to abandonment wounds and it comes to being in cycles, that abandonment wound will be the reason why we are stuck in some unhealthy, unsafe, toxic cycles, because we are afraid of what? Feeling abandoned, feeling unseen, feeling unwanted, feeling unloved, feeling not good enough, right? Um, and that in itself is a painful reality, but what I've learned is a lot of the time when someone is abandoning you, they aren't ultimately abandoning you, although it might feel like that. They are running from themselves. I don't know. Maybe it's delusional to think that way. Maybe it just makes me feel good to think, you know what, I'm not the problem. They are. So they can't face me. So they leave, they run, right? For example, my daddy wasn't in my life for whatever reasons, right? Um, I have I have stored a lot of resentment over the years from my father, towards my father, because I felt like he wasn't there for me. He didn't show up for me. But as I continued to do the work and continue to do the healing, I realized that I was blaming him entirely when it wasn't necessarily all on him. I had to look at my mother. I had to think about, well, what is it that my mother was doing that caused for him to not want? You get what I mean? Sometimes it's not a simple he didn't want me. Sometimes it's he was forced to walk away, or he didn't show up, and that might not be the case. I don't know, but does it bring me comfort being delusional a little bit? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I'm just being 100% honest with you. Yes, it does. um Being having an abandonment wound can, like I said, keep you stuck in situations you shouldn't be in. But at the same time, someone that has an abandonment wound may not necessarily be the one to run, or no, let me rephrase that. They may not necessarily be the one to be afraid of being abandoned. They do the abandoning. They run before they can be left, right? And that is a form of self sabotage, right? Things can be going good in your situation. You can be in a situation, and because you have that abandonment wound, it's like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to fuck things up and I'm going to leave before they can leave me. Things are going good right now, but I don't know. Let me just find a reason to mess things up so that I can leave before they leave me. It can show up as you pushing away because you rather be the one to push the person away versus getting pushed away. But either way it goes, it's a pain that you don't want to deal with. Abandonment wounds causes you to justify bullshit, to keep you in the cycle, right? To keep you in certain connections. You know that this connection is not what you need. You know that this connection is very unhealthy, but you justify because you rather justify to make yourself feel better when in reality you're still hurting. Abandonment wounds will make it to where you deal with the familiar because it's comfortable, although painful, because the unfamiliar is unfamiliar and possibly painful. Does that make sense? Example, you know that that individual that you are dealing with, you should leave, should cut ties, whether this is a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, a former lover, a current lover, whomever, right? These apply to any type of connection, friendship, relationship, right? You know, for example, a mother. You have a toxic mother. You have a narcissistic mother who has always put you down, never made you feel supported, or it was half-ass support. Whatever the case may be, you know that that is a connection that is unhealthy for you. You know that it is one-sided because you are the only one who seems to want to mend and fix the connection. But because they are not in that space, it constantly causes for you to be hurt, right? But, but because you know what you are dealing with when it comes to your mother, you will continuously choose to deal with what's familiar, even if it's painful, even if you know that this is not good for you, even if you know that this is a connection that you need to walk away from, as painful as that may be, because it's your mother. Because it's familiar and it's known and it's comfortable, you continue to go back to it. Why? Because of that abandonment wound. Because of that, the wound leads you to feel like you need to be seen. You need to be heard. You need to be loved. And although all these things are very valid, you do need to be, it's okay to want to be seen, to need to be seen, to need to be felt, to be heard, right? To want to be all of these things. That is very true. But that does not mean that you will receive those things from that person. It does not mean that that's the only person that can give it to you, especially when you know that they are not capable of showing up for you fully. But it's familiar. And that's how we stay in that cycle because it's familiar. It is easier to deal with the known and what comes with it than to deal with the unknown and what could come of it, right? What could come from walking away. A lot of the time our ego comes into play, and when you get ready to walk away because you are tired of being hurt, you are tired of feeling like you are not good enough, you are tired of questioning why, right? When you tell yourself, you know what, I'm cutting them off, I'm going to walk away, I'm choosing me. And as you start to walk away, you start hearing that little voice inside, which is your ego, showing up thinking it's protecting you when really it's ultimately hindering you, saying, well, you walk away, what you going to do now? How you going, who you going, you get what I mean? Who going to pour into you? First off, we need to be pouring into ourselves, right? Yeah. And that's a struggle in itself. But it's you start just hearing little things, right? Hearing little things. And it's like, well, damn, maybe I don't need to walk away. Maybe I don't need to have this. Maybe I'm tripping, right? You start gaslighting yourself. You start gaslighting yourself, and it's like, well, shit. Maybe I'm tripping, right? And you start trying to find ways to justify why you need to stay in that connection. And oftentimes that's just you trying to find comfort because you know that you need to walk away. But to walk away means you are walking into something unfamiliar. And a lot of the times we focus on the what ifs in such a bad way, a negative way, right? We think about what could go wrong instead of thinking about what could go right. We think about and we focus and we hone in on all the things that we could possibly be lacking when we walk away from something instead of shifting our perspective and thinking, what all good can come my way from walking away, from letting this person go, from letting this connection go because it is draining me mentally, physically, emotionally. Because every time I try to reopen that door or that wound, it ultimately it sets me back in my healing because they showed me that they are still very much the very same person that I knew they would be. But I justify in my mind that things might be different this time because I'm justifying, right? I'm trying to come up with excuses to make myself feel better for staying in a situation or dealing with a connection, dealing with a person that I know is no good for me, but because I'm not ready to really walk away and embrace new and embrace better, even if it's painful getting there. I would rather go this way and go backwards just to ultimately be shown that I'm the only one doing the work in the connection. You get what I mean? The justifications, the justifications that bring us comfort when we know that we should be doing better for ourselves, for our children, right? Because we deserve better. We deserve genuine, authentic connections. No matter how life has treated you, no matter what life has shown you to make you feel otherwise, you deserve to heal that wound for yourself. In the reality, we cannot look for someone who caused the wound, right? We cannot look for them to heal the wound because the very reasons that they had to have caused the wound are the very reasons why they will not give a damn about healing the wound. Just saying. Abandonment issues, or not issues, I don't like that word. Abandonment wounds, right, can look different for many people. It can look different for each person and how we handle things, right? It can be the fact that an individual who has an abandonment wound has multiple partners, right? They have multiple partners because they are afraid of being left alone. They are afraid of being unwanted or whatever the case may be. So they have multiple partners to fulfill that wound, to let them to mask the fact that they are afraid of someone leaving them. So if they have multiple options, right, they feel like, well, this person leaves me, I still got this person. This person leaves me, I can go back to this person. This person leaves me or walks away, I can go back to this person. And a lot of the times in dynamics like that, both parties or all parties are struggling in dealing with either an abandonment wound or a codependency wound. My personal experiences and my personal opinion, I should say, codependency wounds are created and derived from abandonment wounds. The codependency wound is created because you are trying so hard not to be abandoned or not to feel abandoned, not to feel that pain from that wound. So you do anything and everything you can to hold on to these connections, right? You do anything and everything you can to justify the connections when you know that the connection is no good, when you know that you deserve more out of those connections. But you become so dependent upon the connections that it makes it even harder to let go when you know you should walk away, because in those moments when you are trying to walk away, you often feel like you are abandoning yourself. Can we talk about it? You often feel like you're abandoning yourself. You become so dependent on someone or on a connection or on people, right? It can be multiple people. It can be multiple things. It can be multiple habits. It can be this. It does not have to just be people. It can be whatever vices you use to cope. You become so dependent on those things just solely so that you don't have to feel abandoned, but it's a false sense of comfort. It's not healthy, right? But again, it goes right back to what feels familiar. And we tell ourselves, I couldn't do it. I tried to walk away. I couldn't do it. Why couldn't you do it? Why couldn't you do it? Because it was hard? Because it was hard. So you deal with the difficulty of being in unhealthy cycles for years, years on years. Living with the justifications that you tell yourself to bring yourself temporary comfort, right? Trying to paint a pretty picture with ugly colors to make yourself feel better about the fact that you know that you should walk away from certain situations, certain vices, certain connections, right? Um, all of these things, which ultimately is more difficult than just going through the process of choosing you and moving forward and breaking those ties and connections and choosing to be more deserving, choosing to believe that there is better out there for you. But because we be so conditioned to think that this is all we're worth, this is all we're gonna get, um, we keep at it, or we go back, or you walk away. Let's say you walk away. Let's say you sever the connection, and then they come back around, and instead of saying no, I move forward from this, we justify why we are willing to open that door again, why we are willing to open that wound again, knowing knowing what all comes with it. And we sit there and we tell ourselves every reason in the book as to why what we are doing is okay when we know. We gaslight ourselves. We gaslight ourselves because we are still dealing with abandonment and codependency wounds. Now, you can have healthy relationships, I feel, where you are codependent, right? Um, there has to be balance, there has to be give and take, right? There has to be healthy communication. I don't feel like personally that codependency, the word codependency necessarily is a negative thing. Again, it's perception, it's perspective. I feel like if there is balance, there is healing done. That codependency can be a good thing because we need that. We need support. We need to be able to feel like we can lean on someone or rely on someone, right? And it be wholeheartedly received and reciprocated. But when that's not the case, and we tell ourselves things like, I knew them for so long, or that's just my mother, that's just my father. I know I know, I know that they did me wrong. I know that they caused me pain. I know that they are not perfect, but maybe it's because I did this. Maybe it's because I did that. But I know maybe this time will be different, and you hold on to hope, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Oftentimes, that's your inner child trying to come through. That hope, that little glimpse, is because that's what we want, right? Because oftentimes when we are abandoned by those that we we really love, or we want that love. It um hmm, y'all know I don't have no game plan when I do these episodes. I just be talking. We just be talking. We just be vibing. So trying to see how to go about moving forward with this. When we don't heal, okay, when we start justifying, right, we don't realize, again, that's what's keeping us in the cycle. But at the same time, it can also be creating another level of an unhealthy connection or cycle, right? My mother, her and I are not in the best space, really. Um, we are on opposite ends of our healing journey. I'm not going to say, I can't say whether or not she's healing. Sometimes it sounds good. Sometimes she says things that makes you think, oh, okay, yeah. She's more self-aware now. She's working on herself, right? And this is not to bash her, but that is a connection that I've always wanted, right? That mother wound, especially because I didn't have my father. So while dealing with the father wound, I'm dealing with the mother wound, and the mother is someone whose love I've always sought for in a way that is a lot deeper than what I've always received, right? But as unhealthy as our connection is, I used to tell myself, because we're not in communication, I used to tell myself when she would come back around or when I would want to reach out that I was doing it for my kids. My kids need their grandmother. That's what I would tell myself. No, my kids need their grandmother. I grew up with my grandparents, and then that relationship was disconnected, not by choice. Now it's strained, nonetheless, but I also grew up with having a very, very close relationship to my nana, still to this day. So I'm able to see both sides. You know what I mean? I'm able to see the importance of having that closeness with the grandparent that I believe all kids deserve. But I also experience not having that anymore or losing that connection when it comes to grandparents and still feeling and wanting that connection growing up. And how it now affects my kids, right? My children. Not only is it important for us to have relationships with our grandparents or different things like that, or for me to have a relationship with my grandparents or wanting that, but damn, now my kids are missing out on connections with and making memories with their great grandparents. You know what I mean? Their grandparents or their great grandparents, in this case, my mom or whatever the case may be, right? Um, but I will use that as justification. Tell myself, no, I'm keeping her around. I'm gonna let her back in. I'm gonna let her back in for the sake of my children. But then she shows me exactly why that door was closed, right? Why that door was closed, and then my children are now still being affected because I allowed for that door to be opened again, because I tried to convince myself that that wound, you know, isn't as deep as a wound as I thought, or whatever the case may be, right? Sometimes in that situation, because I use my children as justification, I am ultimately now putting my children in an unhealthy cycle, because now my children are receiving their grandmother and then simultaneously losing their grandmother, all because mommy is still dealing with that wound and grandmother is not necessarily working on her wound. And it is not grandmother's responsibility to heal mommy's wound, especially when grandmother caused the wound. You know what I mean? And that goes for any relationship, any connection. But that was just an example of what I'm dealing with, or what I've come to recognize, right? And I've learned and recognized that sometimes, as painful as it is just not meant. At least not in our timing. You know what I mean? Maybe somewhere down the line. But sometimes we have to accept that we have to accept people for who they are. We have to learn to accept people for who they are, who they show us they are, who they tell us they are. Oftentimes, a person will literally tell you who they are, show you who they are. And because we are dealing with those wounds, we tell ourselves otherwise and then get mad at them when they told us. You can have somebody that tells you, I'm a liar. I'm a liar. I ain't shit. I'm a liar. I'm gonna lie. I'm gonna keep lying because don't nobody believe me when I tell them the truth anyways. Don't nobody believe me when I try to be real. Don't nobody want to hear the truth. Don't nobody want to accept the truth. I am a liar. They will sit there and tell you that straight up. And because of the connection or whatever the case may be, you will sit there and tell yourself, nah, nah. Maybe they just playing with me. Maybe they ain't no way. Maybe this time different. Baby, they done told you they a liar. They done showed you that the truth ain't in them. And you sitting here justifying. No. We're going to do better about that, right? That's what we're going to do. We're going to do better about that. We're going to learn how to accept what is being shown to us, what is being revealed to us. We're going to accept that we deserve more. We are going to accept and acknowledge that we do have these wounds. We are no longer going to be afraid to step out on faith and move forward, even when we don't know what the hell we stepping into, what the hell we stepping out onto, even though we don't know what is to come. We are going to embrace the unknown, because the unknown is going to bring forth so much more than what we are allowing ourselves to receive now. Ashe. Amen. That's what we're gonna do moving forward. Me and you. Cause I'm look, I'm still working on myself. I'm still healing. Everything I talk about, I am still going through if I have not already gone through it. When it comes to these cycles, you think you done, and then you get tested and shown that you ain't as done as you thought you were, right? Healing is constant work. Constant work. Healing is one of those things where once you recognize and you start working on yourself, it really ain't no turning back. Because when you do try to turn away from it, the version of yourself that has started to heal will ultimately fight with the older version of yourself that you have moved forward from, that you have progressed from. right? And it would be this tug and pull, and they'd be like, man, I'm tired though. Tired of doing it. I'm tired of doing it. I'm tired of being tested. I'm tired. Goddamn, I'm tired. Maybe I'll just go back to what I know. Maybe I'll just go back to dealing with this person, dealing with this connection, because I know what the hell I'm getting myself into. I know it's gonna be this, this, and this. I know they're gonna come around with this, this, and this. I know already. So I'm gonna just deal with it. No, we're not doing that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. We're not gonna justify bullshit. We're not gonna just go back because that's what we know. No. Nope. We're not going backwards. Because healing is too goddamn hard. It's not linear. These cycles are cycling the fuck out of us. Okay? We're not going backwards. We might stop, pause, sit our ass down, and rest. Take a break. Sometimes we take a break longer than we need to. Sometimes we get too comfortable sitting in that spot. Cause it's like shit. I can't go backwards. But I don't feel like going that way either. So I'm gonna just sit here. I'm gonna just sit here. And then we sit there. And life's still lifing. We still getting hit with shit. Cycles still showing up. We're like, God damn, I gotta move. I gotta move, but I don't wanna move. If I'm gonna move, do I go this way or this way? You know damn well which way you supposed to go. You know damn well which way you supposed to go. You better not go backwards either. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I'm kind of just rambling on at this point. I really hope that this shines some light on somebody, for somebody. I recognize what I need to work on within myself, within my connections. And as I tell you guys, we're moving forward. We're not going backwards, baby. I am telling myself, move the fuck forward. There is so much more to life than what the fuck you got going on now. Although I am blessed. I count my blessings, but I deserve more. I deserve so much more. I deserve so much more. Right? When we disconnect from unhealthy attachments and connections, when we accept the fact that despite the history of those connections, and we accept that we can move forward and create new history and new connections, healthier connections, better connections, right? We start to attract those that are really for us and not against us. We start to create our own community, our soul tribe, as you would say, as some would say. Your support, your village will start to become more healthier, balanced, not one-sided, not being gaslit, not, you get what I mean? It's a give and take, right? You're not just pouring into somebody else and then trying to pour into yourself or find a way to replenish yourself and your connections. Because your kids need you, your children need you, your family needs you. The healthy dynamics need you. You need you. Right? I don't know. This goes back to taking a break, right? This goes back to taking a break and just sitting there and being comfortable, right? I'll be driving and you can see a transient um sitting on the road or sitting on the side, right? And I can be driving and it will just be the most random. They will be asleep in the most random goddamn spot. And I'll be looking at them like, what made you choose that spot to lay down and go to sleep? Of all spots, baby, sidewalk, long sidewalk, you chose that spot right there to plant yourself and take a nap, go to sleep. And they don't be giving a damn. And sometimes I be wishing I could be like that. Like, damn, wish I could be that. Like, goddamn, I wish I could just sit down somewhere and lay down. Granted, they might not have much of a choice. I mean, they have a choice. They could have picked that tree over there, but instead they chose that pole right there. and they just planted themselves right there. And it just makes me, I'll be thinking, what made, like, how far did you come to where you got to that spot right there and was just like, this is the spot, I'm tired. I'm going to lay my ass right here. Instead of saying, I did all of this, I'm tired, but let me go a little bit further to that spot over there. I'm going to just choose this spot right here. And that's what I feel like we do. I do. I'm tired, and we get comfortable. We sit there a little bit too long because we comfortable. But we comfortable in all the wrong things. We comfortable in what has brought us pain, or what has blocked us, or what is keeping us stuck, what is keeping us stagnant. Sometimes comfortability ain't always a good thing. Sometimes it hinders. It hinders us. Because it is in the uncomfortableness that we learn or recognize areas within ourselves that we need to nurture, or even areas within ourselves that we have grown. And we wouldn't know that because we were so comfortable over here that we didn't recognize that we were actually growing over here. And then we learn to give ourselves more grace, right? Because when you are in a cycle, it's like, damn, why I can't? Just why I can't? But you are. You making little steps. You choosing you. You know, you working on it. You being more intentional. It's not gonna happen overnight, especially when some of these connections are as strongly rooted and deeply rooted in abandonment wounds and codependency wounds from both sides, right? Somebody got to be the change, though. And in this case, it's you and me and we gonna do this together because y'all got me. I'm here. All right, y'all. I'm just rambling on. So I hope that this helped in some kind of way. I don't know, help me. I just need to get this off because when I talk to y'all, I'm talking to myself, as I say. Or when I talk to you, I'm talking to myself. Um, so stay tuned. More is to come. I know I said that last time, and I went on. I got comfortable. Okay, I sat my ass down, and I got too comfortable. I took a break that I really didn't need because I was self-sabotaging. Because I was in the midst of trying to break some other cycles that I'm working on breaking. Okay, stall me out. I'm on the human. Okay, but I came back. We here now. That's all that matters. We're moving forward. That's all that matters. God damn it. I know I took a little longer. I was whooping my own ass about it, okay? I had people whooping my ass and I was whooping my own ass about it, okay? But we here. I love y'all. I send peace, love, light, and healing. If you need any readings, any Reiki sessions, if you need any of that, all of my details will be in the description box below. You can book a service, okay? If you just need somebody to talk to, I'm here. You got this. You matter. You're important. You are loved. I love you. If nobody else has told you that, I love you. I love you. I like you. I life you, as my girl Ajna Sarah says all the time. But yeah, blessings be upon you. We're moving forward, right?